Hi. So the area of language that I'm focusing on is the recessive, and according to definition, receptive language refers to our ability to receive information, usually through reading or listening. Um, so that's like the way that we read things, like we can fully comprehend what we're reading, or when someone gives us directions or like is telling us something, we fully comprehend what they're telling us without having to think twice about it. Um, so on my case study, there were three examples. The first example was of a girl named Maddie. She's an eighth grader, and she was reading a passage from The Witch of Blackbird Pond. If I'm being honest, when I read this through the first time, I was confused. Um, Probably because I don't understand the book and it's just like a little chunk of it taken out. But I can definitely understand how somebody with a language disability, like why this is complicated, like because I had to stop and like think about it. um, so yeah, anyways, in the two paragraphs that I read that were listed on this like case study, there were so many big words. So there was like vigorously, planking, clambered, jutted, imploringly, things like that. Typical eighth graders, all the eighth graders I know wouldn't know what those words mean. If I'm being honest, I'd probably have to look them up to completely understand what's being said here as well. Um, so yeah, that's just like way over the head. And then there were also words like alien, and when described later, it says that she talked about how when she heard the word alien, she literally thought like outer space alien, not like an alien to the country, so like a foreigner or somebody different. So that was really interesting to me, like to read like why that was complicated for her. I guess like I don't understand the whys. I just like, oh yeah, I can see how that's complicated. But like I think for different reasons than like it actually is. Like for me, I'm like, oh, just the big words is confusing. I didn't necessarily think like, oh, alien, she would think outer space alien. Like, I don't know. So it was really interesting to like read that and like how like that is confusing. And then in the second one, I had trying to see what grade he was in. I can't find what grade he's in right now, but he struggles with like word problems and like understanding words completely. So like one of the examples was the temperature at 7 a.m. was 72 degrees Fahrenheit. By noon, the temperature had risen 28 degrees. What was the temperature at noon? And for his answer, he put 28 degrees. So for him, he understands the question, but he doesn't know what information it's exactly looking for. So like it would be all about like how to pull out what's important and to put those things together. I think that could be taught a little more simply than some other things. That's just a lot of repetition and saying, here's the important parts, here's keywords, this is what these keywords mean. And you could kind of make a kid like Carter his own dictionary. That's a pretty safe bet. I mean, obviously, as he gets older, some of those like I don't know, those pretty consistent things might change. But for the most part in elementary school, up and through most of middle school, it's going to stay pretty consistent, like with word problems and like understanding things to pull out like important stuff, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, I can explain it more. It's in my brain. And then the last one is about a kid named Myron, and he has trouble with following directions like spoken to him. He doesn't understand what he's been being told to do. I think a lot of it is on the teacher and her choice of words that she picked. So here it says Myron's teacher tells him, I wouldn't put the photos up so high that students can't view them easily. To me, I'm like, oh, she means like she wants the students to see them. Like I can take that information and I can run it back through my head and say, obviously she wants the students to see them, so like I need to put them where they can. Or like for a kid like Myron, like he's not able to make that connection in his head. So for a student like him, we had to be very blunt and accurate with what we say. It's kind of like the whole thing they talked about, like say what you mean and mean what you say. There's not room for extra words. So for a student like Myron, it's really, really important. But But the one student I do want to go back to is the first one, Maddie, with like reading. I instantly thought of picture books when I read this, and I'm like, I'm 22 and I still love picture books, and like I know she's an 8th grader, so like having a picture book might like make her feel odd among peers. But even like there's some like chapter books or other books that have like those little pictures in them, or just like something that you can slide in, like even if you print off a picture and like you use it as a bookmark and you mark different pages, that way like like that's a lot of work, but like for some students it's like worth it, especially if you can use it over and over and over again, like within that class if you have another student that comes up that struggles with the same thing. So just like giving her like clues within the text that maybe are super unnoticeable to everybody else in the classroom, but like to her, she could see a picture of like foreigners and know that's the aliens they're talking about, and have like aliens written on the bottom of it with like a picture of a different kind of person, instead of making her think like aliens, outer space, where does that fit into this? And just doing like that extra work to kind of help decode the book. And then you have like a book to use every year, like I already said, which is super helpful. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but like if you own, like in 8th grade, you read like what, 3 or 4 chapter books all year. So you're only doing 3 or 4 chapter books for maybe one student. And if you have another student that struggles, you can have them go back and forth, maybe share the materials, or have them be reading partners for different things. So it's a lot of work off the bat, but then it definitely pays off in the end, because you're not trying to go back and reteach things that students have already read. Like, you're there to answer questions, but like you're not reteaching the whole chapter, because so much of it just went boom right over the kid's head. So yeah, that was like my one idea that like sparked in my head instantly. I was like, oh, perfect. But yeah,